Found messages. My fiancé and my sister have been secretly planning a future. Tuesday night, I was making soup and listening to rain tick against the kitchen window like it was trying to tell me a secret. The broth was simmering, the dog was asleep with his chin on his paws, and my fiancé David was late again. My phone was propped up against a mug playing some podcast about decluttering your life, ironically. I had small, mundane worries. Would the parsley go slimy if I didn't use it this week? Would the storm knock out the power? Would David remember to grab batteries on his way home? I stirred, tasting the broth, and tried to feel grateful for ordinary things. The lamp over the dining table cast that warm honey light that makes even unpaid bills look gentle. It was the kind of night that makes you pull the blanket higher and settle. I had a candle going, lavender, the one my sister Mia gave me as a just because. I'd opened the curtain so I could see the rain-blurred glow of the apartment building across the street. A woman I don't know was watering her plants, and the silhouette looked peaceful. I was tied up in this world of grocery lists and wedding Pinterest boards and faffing over whether the shade of green we picked for the bridesmaids would wash Mia out. She joked it would make her look like a salad. We laughed. It felt like the kind of laugh that doesn't end. It felt like the beginning of a good life. The red flags didn't crash down. They were more like tiny pricks, needle points you don't feel until you press the bruise. David's phone suddenly on silent face down after years of being the guy who missed calls because his ringer was on full blast. Mia always the first to text me, with longer pauses and sorry. Work is crazy more often lately. The way David started a new cologne, something smoky and unfamiliar, and I told myself it was because he was turning 34 and feeling mature. The way he joined me in rearranging the living room for better flow, and then spent a Saturday helping a friend move, returning with a sweater I'd never seen and a vague explanation that the box had ripped and it must have gotten mixed up. The sweater had a small stitched daisy near the cuff like a secret smile. I thought maybe it belonged to the friend's girlfriend. I put it on a chair and it sat there like a wrong note in a song I wanted to sing right. My mom had a habit of saying, when we were kids, that bad stuff shows up in shoes you've been wearing for years, like it was somehow already fitted to you. I think about that now. The familiar weight of David's keys landing on the dish by the door, the way he hugged me from behind and I felt his jaw tighten for a second before he softened into me. He said work was intense, that his boss was piling on, that he was worried about a quarterly review. He let me rub his shoulders and kissed my temple and asked about the soup. I was cataloging these moments like pantry items, enough to sustain us, enough to get us to the wedding. Our wedding in 6 months. We were supposed to send the final list to the venue this week. I had been ready to call Mia to talk about centerpieces after dinner, but she texted, "Headache, rain gets me. Can we chat tomorrow?" Mia lives 7 minutes away and she has always been the one to appear on my doorstep with ginger ale and crackers when I have a headache. "Stay home, rest," I texted back. She sent a heart. David ate soup and let out a sound like a sigh could be nourishment. He said he was exhausted and could we watch something easy. We watched a cooking competition where the contestants made complicated sauces. The dogs snored between us. David's phone vibrated against the wooden coffee table like a trapped bee. He didn't check it. He never checks it anymore. He used to be a compulsive responder. He used to send me memes at midnight and beg for my reaction. He used to. There are so many used tos, and I hear them now like a list read in a calm voice during turbulence. Please locate your nearest exit. It may be behind you. We went to bed. The rain turned from a secret to a lullaby. He fell asleep quickly, as he always does, his breathing evening out into a rhythm I've timed my heart to for 3 years. The lavender candle burned out on its own. The apartment got quiet, like only old buildings get, with pipes groaning sometimes like tired lungs. The turning point wasn't even a choice. My phone died. I couldn't sleep. I got up for a glass of water and a tilt at self-torture I hadn't scheduled. I stepped on the sweater with the stitched daisy when I swung my legs out of bed. I bent to pick it up. The daisy caught the moonlight and winked. I carried it to the chair like I could put it in timeout for making me feel silly. His phone vibrated again on the nightstand. The screen lit his face, blue and peaceful. Normally, it would be impossible to unlock his thumbprint and Face ID, and I am not the person who breaks trust like a cheap ornament. I swear to you, if you're reading this on a lunch break with your leftovers cooling, that I am not a snoop. But his phone, bless perhaps the update gods, was displaying a notification with a preview. It was an email, not a text. Subject, the house on Hawthorne Keysine update. I don't know why my stomach dropped like a lift. Hawthorne is the street where my grandmother lived before she moved. I reached for the phone because that felt less like snooping and more like, I don't know, confirming that the floor was still under me. The screen brightened more. The preview changed to show the first line. Hey David, great news about the loan if you and Mia want to move quick. The water in my glass sloshed and splashed on the nightstand. My hand trembled like a cheap movie special effect. Under the email was a text from a name saved as M, no last name, which is ridiculous because who does that for your own sister unless you need it to look normal? It said, are we still on for tomorrow? I can pop by the firm early, sign stuff, take the key on my lunch break if we need to. It's a strange thing when your body knows before your brain. My fingers went cold first, like I'd been thrown in a lake. Then my throat closed. I tapped the email preview with the lightest touch, as if maybe I could open it and not open anything else. The email unfolded, tidy and businesslike, with a smiling real estate agent's signature block and a little house emoji I wanted to tear out of the screen. I scrolled. There were threads below. Offer accepted. Inspection passed. So happy to help you two start this next chapter. Kless, 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 kless. My fiancé and my sister. My sister and my fiancé. The words became stones in my mouth. I didn't go through pictures. I didn't scour texts for dates. I closed the email like it might burn my hands. I set the phone down as carefully as an egg you don't know what to do with. I picked up the sweater with the daisy and pressed it to my face like it was oxygen. It smelled like Mia. Not her perfume, she hardly wears any, but that crisp laundry smell from those dryer sheets she loves, and a hint of cinnamon from whatever she bakes when she's stressed. I sat there with a sweater over my mouth in the dark and listened to my fiancé breathe. I waited for the fury, the big righteous wave that would break the bed in half and splinter my careful life. Instead, I felt dizzy, like the room had slid to the side and my body hadn't caught up. I thought about their faces. I thought about how Mia held my hand when I cried over Dad in the hospital, and how David gripped my shoulders at the funeral and steered me like we were dancing, and I just had to let him guide me. I thought about the time we played charades last Christmas, and Mia and David were on a team, and they were very good together. And I laughed and said, maybe you two should marry each other, because you say a thing like that when you are standing in the absolute center of your life, and you don't know that life is moving the center under you. I slept on the couch. It wasn't even sleep. It was the kind of spaced-out staring that pretends to be rest. I put the dog's ear between my fingers, because focusing on his soft fur was the only thing that didn't make my heart leap. The rain got heavier and then gave up. The apartment ticked and settled. Neighbors shut their doors. Night got deep, and then it got thin, and then it was morning. He found me with his tie in his hand and a puzzled brow. "Baby?" he said. "You okay?" I looked at his tie and thought, this man tied me to himself with the softest rope. "I couldn't sleep," I said. "Headache." "Do you want coffee? I'll make it," he said, even though he always claims I make it better. He kissed my forehead, the part his lips always find like a homing device, and I felt it like a brand. He made coffee. He hummed. He checked the locks, because he always does. He asked if I still had the floral vendor appointment at lunch. "Yeah," I said. The word, a pebble. He left. The door clicked shut. The apartment seemed too quiet, like a stage with all the actors waiting in the wings. I sent Mia a text. "Are you free to talk?" She sent back, "Early meeting, but I can call on my lunch. Are you okay?" And a heart. I stared at the heart, the way you look at a car in your lane and you aren't sure if it sees you. I checked the email again because reality is slippery. It was still there. The house was small. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, white cabinets. That is, according to the photos. The first photo had a tree with tiny leaves in the yard. The sidewalk out front had chalk drawings. I felt nausea rise, hot and sharp. I asked Siri to call the number of the agent pretending to be someone named Danielle. asked if any further documents were needed. The agent cheerfully said, "Oh, you must be Mia." "Nope, just the deposit. And congratulations again. I'm obsessed with your kitchen plans. Those tiles we looked at are going to be stunning." It took everything I had not to throw the phone. I said thanks and hung up because my voice was about to crack into unusable pieces. At 9:14 a.m., the phone vibrated. "M, can you send me that bakery link again? The one with the lemon cake?" I stared until I realized I was holding my breath. I called. If I had waited, I think I would have fallen into some pit where words don't reach. Mia picked up quickly, her voice already apologizing for noise. "I'm walking to the bus and someone's leaf blowing like it's their job. Because it is. Are you okay? You sound weird. Did you sleep? Are you buying a house?" I said. Sometimes the horror demands to be said, like ripping a bandage. She stopped. I could hear it. The way the air changes when someone freezes. "Did David?" She started and then cut herself off. That was the drop. That was the clear bell. My chest went open and empty, like a cavity had been carved. "With you?" I said. Saying it put me outside my body and above the city. All the roofs like backs of whales. I could see my life as a map I didn't recognize. There was a brief sound, like her mouth opening. Then, "Can we talk in person?" she said, a plea in it, thin as paper. "I'm almost at the firm. I have a deposition prep at 10. Have you been—" I started, but I couldn't finish whatever sentence was trying to happen. Sleeping with, seeing, planning, living, existing alongside me like a shadow that was more solid than me. "I love you," she blurted. "I didn't want to hurt you." It only struck me then that those two statements could share space like that, like saying you didn't want the hurricane to come while you're the one naming it. "How long?" I asked, calm, like I was talking about a slow leak in the ceiling we finally noticed. She made a sound like a laugh that had been punished. "About a year," she said. "No, that's not— we weren't us. And then there was the night after Thanksgiving, and then we were horrible. And then we kept being horrible, and then we were going to tell you, and then you were so happy with the engagement party, and Mom was crying, and I—" She trailed off, words unraveling. "I'm sorry. I swear to you, I've been trying to make it not true, and it kept being true." The bus noise vanished for a second. A wind sweep. In the newly important silence, I heard my own heartbeat. I think of myself as someone who feels a lot. I have big feelings, like plants with broad leaves. I expected to yell. I didn't. I asked, still calm, how she could look me in the eye. How she could help me choose a cake tasting time, book a DJ, call the venue, pick her dress. How she could borrow my sweater and then slide out of it in someone else's bed. How she could make me soup when I'm sick and feed him the spoon too. "I don't know," she said. The worst 3 words. I've hated myself. I did. Do. She inhaled. I tried to end it. And then we would see each other at, brunch or Mom's Sunday dinner, and he gets me. We started talking about things I thought only you and I shared, and then I realized maybe, I don't know, there was something between us I didn't want to see because it was wrong. I know it's wrong. I know I'm a terrible person in this story. "You're not a person," I wanted to say. "You're a knife." I didn't say it. I said, "I need you to tell me one thing. Are you in love with him?" My voice had turned into one of those wires they use to slice clay, delicate and deadly. "Yes," she said, and I had to sit down. Even though I was already sitting, my legs folded tighter, like I could fold myself into a thing too small to feel. She kept talking. "It's not something I chose. I didn't wake up and decide to devastate you. Please believe that. We've tried to figure out the kindest path. There isn't one. Kindest path, as if this is a forest and they killed the trees to lay a boardwalk for me." I ended the call because if I didn't, I was going to forget how to breathe. The coffee on the table went cold. The dog licked my knee like he was checking if I was real. The light through the window shifted from soft to honest. I stood up. I put my phone on the counter. I texted David. "We need to talk at lunch. Can you meet me at home?" He responded immediately. "Of course. Are you okay?" I sent back, "No." This time, the word was a cave. He sent, "I'll leave early. My mother texted about a family brunch this weekend. Your aunt wants to bring a bundt cake. Lemon." Lemon. I laughed. It came out like a cough. I wrote back nothing. I did not go to the floral vendor. I showered because I felt like my skin had someone else's fingerprints on it. I stayed under the hot water until I remembered the electric bill was due next week. I wrapped my hair in a towel and stared at myself in the fogged mirror. My face looked like it had been erased and redrawn. I remembered a game Mia and I played when we were kids, Copycat. I'd draw a sun, she'd draw a sun. I'd pick blue, she'd pick blue. I'd like a boy, she'd... It's cruel, the way an image can ruin you. I saw them without seeing them. I saw Mia in one of my old t-shirts. I saw David's hand on the small of her back. He had his tells. He'd pressed the back of his knuckles there like a question. I wondered if she gave the same answer as me. Did she shiver? Did she tilt into him? Did she kiss his dimple? Did she call it his anchor the way I do? Did he repeat our private jokes like a thief wearing my coat? I sat on the edge of the bed we share and made a list on a sticky note because I didn't know what else to do. Cancel venue? Call mom? Pack a bag? Where would I go? Aunt Carol has a guest room. The rent we paid jointly is due on the 1st. The deposit on the photographer is non-refundable. My heart is not refundable either. I took the ring off and put it on the nightstand. And then I took it back and put it on again. Because somehow that made me feel like if anyone looked in the window, they wouldn't think my life was a collapsed tent. At 11:57, David came home. He did not stop to take off his shoes. He came directly to find me. He looked worried and handsome in a way that made me feel like furniture that had been tricked into believing it was special. "What's wrong?" His eyes went to my face, then to my left hand, where I was holding the ring like a pebble. "How long?" I asked. He flinched, the line in his forehead deepening. "Please," I said. I wanted him to lie. "Isn't that awful?" I did. He sat on the coffee table, too close to my knees. He smelled like the cologne. He smelled like rain that had dried on a coat. He opened his mouth, then shut it. I saw him choose. "About a year," he said. "More like 11 months. I put my hand up. The dog looked between us with a dog's concern. "Did you—" I started in the same broken way I had with Mia, and then decided not to ask what I already knew. I looked at him. He has a tiny scar near his eyebrow from when we went hiking and he slipped, and I'd kissed it the night he got it like you could kiss something away. He looked like a boy who had broken the window and wanted me to say it was okay. Why? My voice pulled the question like it weighed something. He looked at his hands that have built IKEA things with me, kneaded dough with me, held me under fireworks. "I don't know how to answer that without sounding like the worst person you know," he said. "I fell in love with your sister, and I never stopped loving you." He swallowed like he'd swallowed a list of sins and was trapped by them. I tried to break it off, and then the more I tried, the more it felt like lying to myself. I should have told you before I asked you to marry me, and I don't have an excuse. I think some part of me hoped it would resolve, that we could all walk out of this with only bruises. "Bruises," I said, and tasted the word. I put my hand on my chest to catch my heart, which felt like a bird bouncing around a too small cage. "Are you buying a house with her?" He hesitated for just a second and then nodded. If he had said no, I think I would have thrown the lamp. "I was going to tell you Saturday, after your dress fitting," he said, as if the timing of my pain mattered. As if pain would put on a nice outfit. "You were going to tell me after watching me wear a white dress and pretend to step into a future with you," I said, and I could feel heat rising in my face like sun through a thin curtain. "You were going to let me turn in circles in a shop with my mother crying and my sister holding my veil, and then what? Come home and say, 'Actually, the veil is for a different life.'" He winced. "I'm so sorry," he said. He didn't reach for me, and I was grateful for the first mercy. I stood up because I didn't trust what my legs would do if I stayed sitting. I went to the bedroom and got a duffel bag. It felt theatrical. It felt fake. I put in jeans and 2 sweaters and underwear and my charger and the lavender candle like that was a lifeline. David hovered in the doorway like a student waiting for detention to end. "Where will you go?" he asked. The nerve. The absolute gall to worry about me now, to worry about where he placed the fragile ornament after he dropped it. "Aunt Carol's," I said because I couldn't face calling my mother yet. "I'm not staying here." I went to take the framed photo of us from the dresser, the one from our trip to Maine where we were holding lobsters and pretending to be engaged because we knew it would happen eventually. But my hands stopped. I left it. I took the little ceramic ring dish my friend made, the one with my initials curled in blue glaze. He moved like he wanted to block the door, and then like he realized that he was already the door. He didn't. He stepped back. He did not beg. That might have been his last kindness to me. Or maybe his latest cruelty. I thought about how he and Mia might frame this when they tell people. They might say, "We didn't want to lie forever." They might say, "We couldn't help it." They might say, "Love doesn't follow rules." There are 13 versions where they are the protagonists. In none of them am I a person. I am a plot point. I walked out. The hallway smelled like someone's lunch. The stairs creaked like always. I thought of the way our life had grooves in it, worn by us, and how I was stepping out of those grooves into air. I sat in my car. It was 12:24 and the world was ticking along like clocks don't respect grief. I looked at my phone, 27 messages. 2 from my mother, a photo of a cake stand she found at a yard sale with "Thought of you" attached with 3 exclamation points. 1 from my boss asking about a client file. 1 from Mia, "I'm throwing up. I know you don't want to hear from me. Please text when you're safe." 1 from David, "Please let me know you're okay." My landlord's association spam, a coupon for the grocery store. Life. Indifferent. I put the car in drive and then stopped. My hands on the wheel shook. I didn't feel safe anywhere. I felt like any room could tilt and spill me out. I called Aunt Carol and got her voicemail. "Hey, honey, leave a message." "Aunt Carol," I said, trying to sound like a person and not a sieve. Is your guest room? Could I call me when you get this?" I hung up and leaned my forehead on the steering wheel. The sun came out. The kind of petty cosmic timing that makes you laugh if you're in the mood and break if you're not. I drove. I don't remember the route. I arrived at a parking lot near the river where they built that new walking path with the big metal fish sculpture everyone takes pictures with. I sat in my car and watched a dad trying to convince his toddler to let go of a stick. He crouched and said something, and she considered, then offered him the stick like a peace treaty. They laughed. A couple jogged past in matching neon shoes. The world was full of stories that weren't this. I thought about my future like a room I had been decorating that suddenly had a hole in the floor. I thought about what my mother would say when she finds out. Would she pick sides, or would she say family first and wrap both of them in her soft forgiveness? Would she invite them to brunch and ask me to be the bigger person? The phrase "bigger person" made me want to scratch the window. I realized my ring was still on my finger. It felt heavy like guilt. I slid it off and put it in my pocket. For a second, I wanted to throw it into the river like a bad movie and have someone fish it out and say, "This is someone's story," and I'd be the ghost walking away. I didn't. I've watched financial advice videos. I know a pawn shop won't give you what your heart demands for a ring. I knew there is paperwork. Receipts. Receipts. I laughed again. I was becoming that girl who laughs alone in her car. At 2:03, Mia texted again. "I told Mom I wasn't feeling well. She thinks it's a stomach bug. Please don't tell her until I can be there. She's going to freak." The audacity. In this moment, I was both her sister and a stranger who wanted to throw her phone into traffic. I typed and erased a dozen things. I settled on, "Don't come near me." She wrote back, "I won't, I promise, but please tell me when you're safe." I didn't respond. I checked my bank account. I felt this sudden, practical fear that they would move through the world with my resources intertwined. We were engaged. We had opened a joint savings account named Future. The name was a joke that wasn't funny. I transferred out my portion. I texted David. "I moved my money. If you touch what's mine, I will get a lawyer." He wrote back, "I would never." And for the first time in a day that had no oxygen, I felt a flicker of something like power. It was small and not satisfying, but it was mine. At 3:45, my phone rang. It was Aunt Carol. "Hey, lovey," she said, and her voice alone made my throat go raw. "What do you need me to do?" "I'm rearranging furniture if you need to cry while you pretend to help. I have clean sheets, I can make chicken and rice. Come as you are." "I'm coming," I said, and my voice cracked on the last word. "I can't. I'll explain when I get there." "Bring your dog," she said. "Dogs get it." I drove out of the city to her little house with the widow's walk she never uses. The road unwound, trees blurred by. The kind of drive you do when you aren't thinking, and your body remembers childhood trips to this exact house. I pulled into her gravel driveway, and she was already on the porch, arms open. I fell into her like the kind of falling that doesn't hurt. She didn't ask me anything. She pressed my head to her shoulder and said, "I've got you." I cried in a way that felt like a broken dam. I wiped my face on my sleeve, and she pressed a glass of water into my hand and made a joke about how water is useful in so many contexts, like crying and soup and being alive. That night, she put a pot of chicken and rice on the stove and let me sit with my head on the table. She didn't drink, but she offered me a glass of wine, and I took one sip to calm down, and then switched to water. I took a shower in her guest bathroom, where she keeps those fluffy towels that try to be a hug. I stood in the bedroom she painted yellow and thought about how I would tell my mother. I thought about if Dad were alive, what he would say. He would say, "You pack your bags and go," in that no-nonsense voice. And then he would cry later in the basement so no one could see. I scrolled back through old photos of Mia and me, and I felt a grief that was its own weather, not just anger. Mourning. For the sister I thought I had, for the fiancé I thought chose me, for the person I was yesterday when soup was enough to make me feel safe. Aunt Carol knocked and brought me a spoonful of something, saying, "Taste this." The muscle memory of that small kindness made me sob again, quietly, into my towel. She sat on the end of the bed and rubbed my foot like I was 5. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. It felt like bandages being placed over air. As the night fell, texts ticked in. One from my boss. "Yow today? All good?" I typed back. "Family emergency, I'll update you tomorrow." One from Mom. "Are we still on for Saturday? I have the dress bags ready." I stared. I put the phone face down because I am not a person who can tell my mother that her daughters broke each other over text. At 8:55 p.m., a number I didn't recognize called. I didn't answer. It left a voicemail. I listened to it with my heart in my throat. The man said he was from the bank, calling to confirm the appointment for tomorrow for Mia Rivera and David Carter at 10 a.m. He wanted to make sure they had all the documents. He was chipper. He said congratulations. He said exciting stuff. I had choices. None of them felt brave. Call the bank and tell them the relationship between the applicants is deceit? Call my mother and detonate my family? Call the real estate agent and cancel the loan because the funds are misrepresented? Could I? Should I? Would that be revenge or self-preservation? The boardwalks and paths and kindest routes folded and crossed in my head until I felt like I was standing in a maze with the walls shifting. I took my glass of water and put it on the nightstand and watched my hand shake. Aunt Carol put on a movie downstairs loud enough to give me cover. The dog sighed in that way he does that sounds like disappointment with the world. I lay on the yellow quilt and stared at the ceiling fan spin. I replayed every laugh, every squeeze of my hand, every time Mia said "my baby sister" with pride. It is possible for something to be true and still be unbearable. The idea that someone can love you and hurt you in the same breath, that they can tell themselves a story where you're respected while they dismantle you. Where was I in their plans? A footnote? A casualty. That ugly clinical word. At 10:12 p.m., I got 3 texts, stacked like stairs. David, "Please don't call Mom before I talk to her. I want to own this. She deserves to hear it the right way." Mia, "I love you. You don't have to respond. I just need you to know that no future of mine looks right without you in it. Even if you never speak to me again, I will be here when you're ready to yell or cry or throw things or ignore me. I will be here. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking to stand in front of you and take what I deserve. And I'm asking you to eat. and sleep, please. Mom, phones hate me today. Call me when you can, sunshine. Your aunt says you might be at her place. Tell her not to let you raid her cookie jar. Kidding. Not kidding. Love you. So excited for Saturday. The night pressed in. The future lay there, indistinct. Would I show up to the bank with a scene? Would I stand in my mother's kitchen with a cup of tea and break her heart into careful pieces? Would I keep the ring in a drawer and pretend this was a problem that could be filed? Would I attend a wedding that wasn't mine? Would I have to look at photos of my sister in a white dress and pretend like the world didn't tilt? I pictured their little house on Hawthorne, the chalk drawings on the sidewalk. Would there be a chalk bird with a broken wing? Would there be a chalk girl with a stick she needed to let go? I am writing this from Aunt Carol's guest room with my bag half unpacked like a problem I don't want to commit to solving. The dog is curled at my feet like he understands something we don't. The window is open just a crack because Aunt Carol believes in fresh air, even in winter. I can hear frogs down by the little creek behind her house chirping like a bad drumline. Somewhere in the dark, someone is making plans. Maybe even me, someday. Tonight, I keep sitting up because if I lie down, the room feels like it will slide again. I keep looking at my phone like it might show me a version of my life where soup and rain and candles mean what they meant yesterday. It feels wrong to end with advice or a tidy bow because nothing is tied. There is a loan appointment tomorrow morning. There is a dress fitting Saturday that will not be a dress fitting, at least not for me. There is a mother who will be hurt. There is a house with a tree with tiny leaves. There is my sister's voice saying, I love you, and my fiancé's voice saying, I never stop loving you. There are the two of them I have to learn to see as both themselves and as the people who put me here, in this yellow room, trying not to look at the clock because time is being rude. I don't know what to do. Do I call the bank and tell them the applicants are two people who are choosing a life that splits mine in half? Do I let them sign their papers and then pick up the pieces of me quietly and rearrange myself into a different shape? Do I call my mother tonight and let her be my mother? Do I make an appointment with a therapist before I call anyone? Do I block them both and sleep? I had a sip of wine, and it didn't fix anything. I put my ring in the little ceramic dish, and it looks like a symbol of something that burned down. Maybe tomorrow, I'll wake up and the weather will be kind. Maybe Aunt Carol will make pancakes and the dog will make a fool of himself, and I will feel something other than this heavy, spacious pain. Maybe I'll drive to the bank and sit in the parking lot and decide if I'm the kind of person who walks in and stops a future or the kind of person who turns away and builds a different one. Right now, I am writing this to anyone who has sat on a bed in a room that smells like someone else's laundry detergent and felt both utterly alone and close to a truth they did not ask for. If you have advice, I will listen. If you have breath, please use some of it to tell me how to put one foot in front of the other when the path has been stolen. Don't tell me to be the bigger person. Don't tell me time heals all. Tell me what to do with this ring. Tell me what to do with Saturday. Tell me how to tell my mother. Tell me how to keep from calling Mia even though the old part of me wants to, and the new part of me knows she is not my safety net anymore. And tell me something else. How do you forgive yourself for not seeing the emails about a house on Hawthorne? When the emails were written in sighs and glances and jokes you thought you were sharing with two people who would never stand in a kitchen you built and exclude you from the blueprints. TLDR. Found out via an email preview that my fiancé and my sister have been having an affair for about a year and are buying a house together. I left and am at my aunt's, trying to decide whether to confront family, stop their loan signing tomorrow, or just start putting my life back together.